Hey, good morning. Okay, so we've got a bigger audience on our Facebook page there, Linus. But I'll handle the waiting room and kind of get everyone settled. Perfect. So guys, we're going to get started now. It's been a while since we've done a social media presentation for you guys, especially live. So today I have Linus. He's coming from Homania. Some of you guys have used their services. Homania Spotlight is probably the common term that you guys know, but Linus is going to refresh our memory and do a little bit of a social media reprogramming for us and talk all about social media, Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff for you guys. So if you do have any comments, Linus, do you want them to ask as you go, or do you want to wait till the end?
Probably just better to hold the questions to the end. I find a lot of times I end up answering questions along the way, and then, there's kind of redundancies there. So save the questions for the end. There'll be plenty of time for that, I'm sure.
Perfect. Okay, so you heard in there, guys. So put all your questions in the comment box. If you're on Facebook, I will relay the questions to Linus at the end as well. So don't hesitate to put them there. But yeah, I think it's gonna be a great session. Get some notes down. We will have this recorded just on our Facebook group there. So if anyone wants to refresh and rewatch the session again, it'll be on our agent group. But I'm gonna let Linus kind of take it from here. So it's all you.
Thanks, Caitlin. So hello, everybody. Thanks for having me here. As Caitlin said, I'm Linus. I'm from Homania. We run the Spotlight program that I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. I've been in real estate marketing for a while now. I kind of lost track of time, but somewhere around 12, 13, 14 years, somewhere around there. And a couple of weeks ago when I was chatting with Caitlin and Carly about coming to do a seminar for all of you, when they suggested I should come and do a talk about social media, I thought this would be a great opportunity to do a little social media reprogramming. That's why I named the seminar Social Media Reprogramming. So the big reason that I think that this is needed is because I've always been surprised by the way a lot of realtors tackle social media. I feel like realtors, and I hate generalizing, but I'm going to do it a lot in this presentation because I feel like realtors, for the most part, have a fundamental misunderstanding of what social media is for. And if you don't understand something, it's really hard to be successful at it. So my goal today is to tear down all those pre-existing ideas that realtors have floating around their heads and give you guys a fresh start. Just to be clear too, this seminar is not going to be going over like the nitty gritty, like finer points of social media. I'm not going to show you how to like sign up for TikTok or post your Instagram reels or like retweet or create a Facebook page. None of that kind of stuff. My goal is going to be equip you with a fresh perspective on what social media is at its core. And this is applicable to all social media networks, not just one or a couple in particular. So realtors, that's what all of you are, presumably. You're amazing at selling houses. I've known that. I've talked to so many realtors over the years. That's what you've signed up for, right? That's what you've been trained to do. That's what you've got experience doing. You might be a new agent, or maybe you've been doing this for 40 years. It doesn't really matter. The point is you became a real estate agent to sell houses, and presumably something you know inside and out and something you're probably pretty good at. I guarantee that at least at some point you've tried to tackle social media, or at least you've thought about it, but most of you have tackled it to one degree or another. And more than likely, it probably didn't go as well as you hoped. I'm sure this sounds familiar. You probably gave it a go. Maybe you're still giving it a go, but you never really got that traction that you're expecting. Maybe that traction you were promised. You never saw an increase in business from it. You never saw a lot of new leads coming in. I hate to generalize, but realtors, for the most part, tend to fail at leveraging social media to expand their business. And this makes absolutely no sense. Realtors are great at networking. They're great at charming people. They're great at controlling social situations. For the most part, they're pretty charismatic. Successful realtors have this personality that draws people to them. That's what makes a good realtor. These are exactly the tools that you need to succeed at social media. A lot of the traits that make someone successful at real estate should directly translate to success at social media. You've got the perfect tool set to succeed, but you're not succeeding. Why? Like it's such a baffling situation. It's probably for a lot of reasons, but at its core, the main problem here is you're probably looking at social media completely the wrong way. 99%, and again, I'm generalizing, but I'm leaving a little bit of wiggle room because not everyone. 99% of realtors seem to think that social media is just free advertising. They sign up for an account. Every time they have a listing, they post it. Every time they have an open house, they post it. There's very little variety in the posts that on social media that most realtors do. They may link to like maybe the occasional like real estate article or market stat summary, might even announce they won an award or just sold a home, like, 10% over asking, whatever it is, right? It's very uninspired posting. It's all very formula. Self-promotion, post. But they never seem to get the follows or engagement they're looking for. They're constantly tooting their own horn, constantly self-promoting. It's this like never-ending cycle. That's not what social media is about. It's not all about you. It's not all about your business. If that's what you're doing, you're thinking about things completely wrong. And that's what I really want to try and convey today. So this might sound familiar. It's probably what you've tried in the past, or maybe you're still trying. And one thing I really need to ask of you to make sure we can go forward in the seminar is to make sure that you forget everything that you know about social media. I need a clean slate to work with. So toss away any preconceived notions, whatever anyone's ever told you about social media. A lot of it might be right, a lot of it might be wrong, but I just need a clean slate to work with. So let's start again. Start at the very beginning, a very simple question with a surprisingly simple answer. What is social media? If you can answer this question properly, if you can truly understand what social media is about at its core, it actually becomes quite easy to master it and turn it into a viable platform for creating business. So back to the question. What is social media? Essentially, fundamentally, it's a gigantic social event. You're in a giant room full of people. It's a really big room and it's got a lot of people in it. That's all it is. Everyone in that room is looking to chat with each other, looking to enjoy time spent together. It's the same as any social function. Person-to-person interaction, people telling stories, people laughing together, enjoying their time together. It's no more complicated than that. Yes, they're not in the same physical space together, and these interactions, they're all virtual. But it is the exact same thing as any large social event. If you haven't been in a cave all your life, you've been to countless social functions, you've been in countless social situations. This is a very familiar environment for you. And given that you're a real estate agent, there's a very good chance that this is an environment you thrive in. So I want you to think about this parallel. Now, start thinking about like maybe the last time you were at a social event. Who did you seek out to talk to and spend time with? The answer to that question is probably pretty simple. It's the people you enjoy being around the most, right? It's the people that share interests with you, the people that make you feel good about yourself, people that are charming, funny, entertaining, the cool kids at the party. You want to hang around with the cool kids at the party. On the flip side, almost as inevitably, there are these people that you probably would rather avoid in social situations or at parties or whatever you want to call them. I'm sure there are people that you hate spending time with. Maybe they're boring. Maybe they have an annoying personality. Maybe they just make you feel uncomfortable, right? Those people that, whatever the reason is, you want to try and get away from them in those situations. Everybody knows someone like this. I can think of a few off the top of my head, just like they pop up right away. And they're probably popping up in your brain too. Just people that you just can't stand being around. Right? They're the annoying kids at the party pooper. I don't know what you want to call them. My kids probably call them the party pooper. So what would you do if one of these people came up to a party? I'm sure this has probably happened to you before, and they just wouldn't shut up about their personal achievements, how great they are, how good they are at their job. Maybe they're trying to sell you some wacky business idea. I've had that happen before. 100%. You start looking around the room, trying to find someone to save you from that situation, right? We've all been there before. It's the kind of person you try and avoid, probably at all costs. You definitely wouldn't want to spend more time with them, right? Well, flipping back to what I mentioned before, a lot of realtors do on social media. That's exactly what they do on social media. You wouldn't want it in a social environment, but a lot of realtors do this in social media. So there should be an obvious problem, an obvious disconnect that you see here. No one likes someone who just talks about themselves and self-promotes all the time. Like I said, social media is the exact same. No one wants to listen to someone that just constantly talks about themselves with nothing interesting to say. People, everybody, has a finite amount of free time. It's a very valuable commodity. For most people, it's probably their most valuable commodity. You have to make people want to spend that free time with you. You need to talk about things that are interesting, things that are exciting. It doesn't even have to be about real estate, right? You're trying to attract an audience of people. You're trying to, and I really know realtors love this phrase, you're trying to expand your sphere of influence. I'm sure you've all heard that term before. You're trying to expand your audience. And the best way to do that is to make yourself interesting. You want to be the life of the party, not the party pooper. So how do you go about that? How do you make yourself interesting? How do you do it in a social setting? It's the exact same principles. You do that. Tell stories, share experiences, encourage engagement in the conversation. Ask questions, right? Most importantly, you got to be interested in what other people have to say too. This isn't a one-way street. You're all realtors. This is your wheelhouse. You're all probably better at this than I am, right? You know how to excel in social situations. The same rules, they apply to social media. It's one of the biggest takeaways I want to make sure you come back with today. Okay, so I used this party analogy. It's very simple, it's very clean, it's very relevant. It's a good way to think about things. Here's another relevant analogy, though. It requires a slightly different skill set, but it's very interrelated. It's great to be the life of the party, and it's definitely a great way to attract followers. This is something that's more of a macro level, right? The big party, the big picture. There's also the micro level to think about too. The one-on-one interactions you have with people on social media. You get a new follower on whatever social media network you're on. Again, this is platform agnostic. It's just like dating. You've asked them on a date. They've heard great things about you, right? They've seen you at the social media party a few times. Now they're ready to get serious. They've hit that like button. They followed you. Maybe they press a little heart. Says they want to take this relationship to the next level, right? So now it's up to you to prove that you're dating material. You need to convince them to stick around for a while. So how do you do that? What makes for a good date? You want to be funny. You want to be entertaining, fun to talk to. There's more. You need to be a good listener. You need to engage in the conversation. You need to go beyond telling anecdotes and sharing interesting stories. That's all good for the party, but for the one-on-one, you need to interact. That's the next big step, interaction. You can't just post stuff and forget about it on social media. If you get a comment, reply to it. Continue the conversation. Comment on other people's things. If they're not followers, follow them back. Engage. Don't be a greedy lover. You need to give as good as you get. Some advice my wife tells me, it's very good advice. You're realtors, you're people persons. You have all these skills, so you want to make sure you can use them. Okay, so hopefully at this point, at least I've got the brain juices flowing a little bit. I wanted to set the stage for some of the rest of the stuff I'm talking about. Social media isn't just a poster board for ads. It's a very familiar environment we've all been experiencing throughout our lives. It's the people and the interactions between those people that make social media social media. Okay, before we get any further, I do have a bit of a disclaimer. I really want to make sure I'm clear on this, so I've dedicated a slide to it. Social media isn't for everyone. That's what I'm trying to say today. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of commitment. It can take a really long time sometimes to see the fruits of your labor come back. Most common complaint I hear from people when they were talking about social media and getting into it, they just simply don't have the time for it. Right? I'm way too busy. And that's perfectly legit. Some people don't have time for social media, and that's okay. It's an effective marketing strategy, but like any marketing strategy out there, you have to weigh the pros and the cons. Most marketing costs a lot of money. One of the great things about social media marketing is it doesn't have to cost you a single penny. It's really effective for real estate agents that have time to invest. It doesn't have to be a huge investment in time. Just because you're a busy real estate agent doesn't mean you don't have time for social media, but it is an investment. And it's one that's not everybody, let's be honest, is willing to make. Okay. So that being said, a little mix of dedication, charisma, and a clear strategy, right? There's a few things you need. It can go a far way in being able to expand your sphere of influence and create like a nonstop pipeline of leads. And I've seen it before. It can happen. This could be like your primary source of leads if you treat it properly. The other thing I want to make clear too, for those of you that are content using social media, like most realtors do, like this poster board for ads or self-promotion or whatever, or maybe just have like an account on like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, for the sake of having an account. maybe your son or daughter signed you up for it, who knows? That's okay. It's not great. You're obviously not reaching your full potential, but it's still better than nothing. You probably won't get many or any probably leads out of it, but a lot of people use social media actually to vet agents. Similar case for making sure you have a realtor website set up. If someone wants to take you in a listing presentation, most of them are probably going to vet you online first. Having a social media presence is a good way to make sure you have a professional presence. You're there in a professional capacity. So please don't I'm not trying to say you should go delete your accounts or anything. It's kind of the point I'm making. And this may just not be the strategy for you. Those are your decisions, but disclaimer's done. Let's move forward. So yeah, okay, that's it for like the generic kind of like hand waving part of the conversation. It's fundamentally the most important part about what I'm going to talk about today. If you understand at the most basic level the parallels between real world social interaction and social media interaction, becoming at social media just really starts boiling down to common sense. That being said, it probably couldn't hurt to talk about some more specific things. And that's what I'm going to do now. Some advice to kind of push you in the right direction, get your like brain juices flowing a little bit as you start on this new journey. And I've made it into a fun top 10 list. I've always liked those. I used to like Letterman a lot. So everyone, it's time for, in no particular order, the top 10 tips you should consider when cultivating your social media. And I'm sure probably the more observant people among you notice there's only 8 of these on my list. And that's okay. I just thought top 10 list sounded better, but there's really only 8 things I want to talk about today. So for those math nerds out there, you're going to have to bear with me. Tip number 1, limit self-promotion. I've already talked a lot about this. A lot of these things you'll notice I've kind of like touched on, but I'm just going to go into more detail here. Almost all realtors post the same things. Like I said, it's very formula. I've got this house for sale. Check out my photos. Just sold this home over asking. Look at this award I won. Like all that kind of stuff, right? There's probably like 9 different types of posts that could easily explain 99% of realtors, the majority of realtors post online. So this is considered self-promotion. It gets the word out about your specific business product, right? Which is selling homes, or tries to promote the fact that you're a successful realtor. It's okay to do this, but people generally have a very limited appetite for it. Think of it like watching TV. You don't just tune in for the commercials, right? No one does. Everyone hates commercials. If there's a few commercials mixed into good content, you'll suffer through them. But if there's too many, you'll just flip over to something without commercials like Netflix, or find a channel that's got less commercials on it, right? If you put up too many self-promoting commercials on social media, your followers have a bajillion other alternatives to follow, right? They can just find somebody else. Like I said before, free time is a valuable commodity. People are very careful where they choose to spend it. You want to make sure they spend it on you. So there's a couple famous rules you may have heard of, and I put them up here. There's an 80-20 rule, or sometimes people call it the 90-10 rule. What these rules mean is that 10 to 20% of the things, depending on which rule you subscribe to, 10 to 20% of the things you post on social media can be business self-promotion, whereas the other 80 to 90% should be like non-business related. These rules, they're okay as a rule of thumb, but the gist of it is that you just don't want to be promotion hungry. Your goal on social media should be to get a following, to increase your sphere of influence, right? You're very unlikely to find a buyer when you're specifically trying to sell a certain home through social media, especially if you only have like 100 followers, right? That's okay. Selling a specific home shouldn't be your goal on social media. Okay? I'm going to say it again. Your goal on social media should be to expand your sphere of influence. Don't lose sight of your goal. It's really easy to. This ties in perfectly with the next tip, which is tip number 2, rethink your posts. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this one because it's probably one of the more important ones on the list. If you can craft your posts well, you can self-promote in a subtle, entertaining way to a point where I wouldn't even consider it self-promotion. If you subscribe to this 90-10 rule or whatever, it's kind of like cheating. You get to break the rules of this 90-10 thing. If you can post properly, you can cheat to win. Right? It makes life easier. I'll show you some examples of some common realtor posts. They're from various platforms. Like I said, it really doesn't matter which. All social media platforms are basically the same thing, with just like a slightly different look. They're like different social venues, right, with slightly different people. But at the core is they're essentially the same thing. So we're going to look at some posts and identify what makes them either good, not so good, maybe somewhere in between. My real goal here, though, just to be clear, isn't to tell you what to post, but to get you thinking about how to post on social media. It's a mindset that you need to get into. So here, my first example is probably the most common post you'll see on Realtor social media. I'll call it a listing announcement. They're literally a dime a dozen. Picture of a house, maybe with a small caption with the price, the address, a few pictures if you're lucky, maybe even a video. Maybe they've linked the virtual tour here. What's the purpose of a post like this? That's usually what you need to think about when you're posting, right? Are you going to sell this house to your 100 followers? Maybe, but it's probably doubtful, right? Do you think this post is going to attract new followers? Probably not. Best case, maybe your seller decides to reshare with their friends in the effort to spread the word about their house. Maybe, just maybe, though very unlikely, something might trickle back up the pipeline and turn into a buyer or a future lead. I mean, it can happen. It's just very unlikely. It's okay to post these listing announcements, even though there's only a minute chance of something coming of it, right? So many realtors do it. And as like I said before, it's perfectly fine to use social media as a poster board for self-promoting. It's just not the best way to post listing announcements. If your goal, and this is what your goal should be, is to increase followers, increase your sphere of influence, you can post listing announcements in a much more creative, entertaining way. You want to make sure you post it in a way that encourages interaction and sparks the interest of people looking at it. Okay? And these ones definitely don't do that. I've blurred out the names of the offenders so no one gets embarrassed. None of them are you guys, though, don't worry. So I want you to rethink your listing announcement. You can show that you have a listing. You have a listing for sale, right? Without force feeding it to people. People are smart. They'll figure it out. You want to post pictures or videos, even better, that draw people in. Pose a question. Ask people for advice or feedback. Show them a story. These are like 3 posts I literally just found yesterday. Like I didn't have to scour along. The post on the left here is a great one. It asks a question, encourages people to comment on this post. And when you click on it, not only is it a video, but it has more information about the home and the listing, et cetera, et cetera. So it is that kind of like listing announcement, but the focus is on the pool and the experience, right? It's important to focus on an experience, get someone to click on it. A lot of people are going to click on this post because they're kind of curious what comes next, right? Look at listing video for a home or a picture of a home. You're not necessarily going to get that same kind of like thing to draw you in. You need to tell the story. The post in the middle does something similar, very subtly too. It shows off a great staged apartment with quote unquote Parisian vibes, right? That's what the caption says there. It encourages people to talk about the Parisian vibes and comment on the post. And that's exactly what a lot of people actually did on this listing or this post. You notice that there's a common thread here. They both have captions. Captions can make a post 1,000 times more effective. It's hard for a picture to start a conversation on its own, but adding some context can go a long way. The post on the right is one that I thought was particularly genius. It's a pretty simple video that was on TikTok of a seller lighting their fireplace after getting repaired and inspected prior to putting their listing up for sale. It's a great story. Again, one that's amplified by the caption. Caption reads, "Watch as we light our 201-year-old fireplace for the first time in over 57 years." You want to see what happens? Because I know I did. That's why I clicked on it, right? Imagine that without the caption. Without the caption, it's not nearly as interesting. But with the caption, not only adds context, but it draws a person in. You want to make people, you got to dangle that carrot to bring someone in because you want to make sure that they're interested to see what happens next. So these three posts, not only are they all interesting, not only do they ever so subtly tell the world that you've got a listing for sale and that you're a real estate agent, but more importantly, they're very shareable, right? They have the potential to expand your audience outside of your limited social media sphere, which probably, let's be honest, consists of existing and past clients, friends, and family, right? You need to crack outside of that before you can actually get a true social media following. Here's another fantastic example of self-promotion that's not interesting on the left versus interesting on the right. The post on the left is a very common realtor post. I see it all the time. Look at this award I won. Yeah, that's great for your great for your friends and family to see. I'm sure they're all really proud of you. It's great when someone's vetting you online, right? Like I mentioned before, some people just look on social media to vet people to see if they're like a legit real estate agent. But is it going to grow your audience? Probably not. This is self-promotion, really at its finest. Now take a look at the one on the right. It's actually a short slideshow of a realtor going through a typical day in her life, right? It's definitely self-promotion. Shows that she's a very successful realtor, but it's interesting self-promotion. It's shareable self-promotion, which is probably more important. Self-promotion that makes you want to learn more, makes you want to click through and see what it's all about. Tells you a story that a picture or a trophy could never tell. Not only does it draw people in, it also gives them an opportunity to get to know you. Remember, I said before, you're on a date. You got to make yourself interesting without talking about yourself too much. It's a fine line sometimes. Tip number 3, engage with your audience. Posting on social media is important, obviously, but posting is just starting the conversation. Don't abandon a conversation just when it's getting started. Just like you wouldn't abandon the lead that just reaches out to you, right? You got to follow up. Same with social media. Someone comments on your posts, reply, keep the conversation going. Showing you value, feedback, and comments. It's a great way to encourage more comments. More comments and engagement with a post will also help kickstart that whole like social media search algorithm thing. Your posts are going to start showing up organically in more people's feeds when more people interact with your posts. It's a big metric for how people's posts get visible in other people's feeds. So comment on other people's posts you come across. Whether they're your followers, just totally random people, get in the habit of commenting. Say interesting things, be witty, engage with other commenters too, right? you can get exposure on other people's posts, especially other people that have popular posts that have high level visibility. This is one of the best ways to introduce yourself to other people's spheres and get a little of the juice coming your way too. People just generally love when their voice is noticed. And that's kind of like what they're there for on social media, right? To have that conversation. So if you're the one who offers them that conversation, it's obviously a good thing. You want to be the person who helps them fulfill this desire, I guess, if you want to call it that. So there's a bit of a word of caution here too. And I know that there's a lot of cautionary tales I've been bringing up throughout this conversation. There's a trap here you need to be careful of. You can spend your whole day scouring social media. Please don't fall into that trap. If you're using social media as a marketing outlet, make sure that you budget your time and you're efficient with your usage of time. Comment efficiently, post efficiently. Like honestly, like an efficient 30 minutes a day spent on social media is all you really need. Like efficient is the key word here. That's why I keep repeating it over and over again. It's okay to spend a lot of time, and like you can spend as much as you want, to be honest with you. But if it starts taking away from your other responsibilities, your other business development activities, or eating up too much of your free time, you may need to reflect on your usage patterns and try and come up with a more optimal use of your time. So it's something to be careful of, because I've seen a lot of agents fall down that rabbit hole, and it's not always the most effective use of your time if you do. Tip number 4, and this is a big one, video. It's so big, I decided to put a little exclamation point at the end of the tip. Video is way more effective than photos. Obviously, this is like no big revelation, but it's really important to understand when and why videos are so much more important than photos. The why of it is pretty much because videos tell a story. It's an insanely powerful way to tell a story and to achieve many different goals. But by far the best thing a video can achieve is to give people a glimpse into your personality. People love learning about people, and a video can help with that. It's really easy to do too. There's this common misconception that producing a video can be really time consuming and difficult. And to be honest, that's really not the case anymore. If you have a phone with a camera, and I mean, you guys are realtors, I know you have a phone, presumably you got one with a camera too. You can easily just record and publish a short video to any social media platform in a few minutes. It doesn't have to be heavily produced. It doesn't have to be produced at all. Like that's another common misconception. A lot of people think, oh, I gotta do post-processing editing, make it look all professional like. That sounds very, very, very untrue. Couldn't be further from the truth. Produced video has its place, but raw, unscripted, unproduced videos are very effective. They feel very real and personal, right? They're honestly the best format for connecting with your audience. There's a lot of other places videos can work well too. Videos of the inside of homes, right? Or better yet, not just like showing the whole home without any narration or anything. Like it's better to have specific features of the home highlighted. Remember that pool situation we were showing before, or even the fireplace? You want to tell an interesting story, because stories are very powerful as well. That video I mentioned with the fireplace, that was kind of like the perfect example of this. It's also very good to keep things short and sweet too. 15, 20 seconds, maybe 30 seconds at the most. That's all you need. Anything more than that, and you're likely losing your audience. People on social media have a very short attention span. You want to make sure you cater to it. One thing I've also learned is that videos are a bajillion times better when people are in them. It's kind of what I was talking about a second ago, right? You want to make sure you give your story a character, something to focus on, something to relate to. It's a lot easier to relate to a person as opposed to a thing. In most cases, you want to make sure that character is you, right? You're doing a video of yourself. You're talking to your audience. You're building up your rapport with your audience. I almost forgot about the last point here too. I better talk about that before the next slide. You want to make sure you add captions. Sounds like a strange thing, but it's very important. Fancy text callouts, and I'll show you a couple of those in a second. Those are probably the best, but adding captions, even like closed captions, it's actually very important. And a lot of people don't realize this. I've seen stats about this, but I can't remember the exact numbers, which is somewhere around 85% of people on social media watch videos without sound. If you don't have sound, if you don't have captions, you lose on the context, right? It's great if someone's listening what you're saying, but if they can't hear you, you need to make sure they can see what you're saying. Most platforms too, they actually have a very easy way to auto-generate captions and an easy way to like verify that they're right to and edit them. So make sure that you do it. I've seen too many videos, and I watch a lot of social media videos without sound too, where you have no idea what's going on because maybe you're in a meeting, maybe you're watching this presentation, scrolling through social media right now. I don't know. You don't want to interrupt other people in the surroundings around you, so you do it with the sound off, right? The only way you're going to understand what's going on is if there's captions to help you follow along through the story. And again, if you have time, fancy captions are better. They lead to good thumbnails as well as to a bit more visual stimulus for your viewers. I'll get back to those fancy captions in a second. First, I want to show you two popular people on Instagram and some of their recent posts, just to highlight a few things. On the left is Jazz Takar. He's a real estate broker. And on the right is Vonnie Fast. She's a sales rep from Cutco. Some of you might know her. She has closing gifts for real estate. These two really understand how to take advantage of short videos. I've interviewed them both in the past. They're really great people. And they both really understand the importance of building their personal brand through social media and through video. And like I said, that should be what your goal is. You may notice too, especially on Jazz's videos on the left, Jazz does a really good job of using captions and thumbnails too. This is one thing I wanted to highlight as well, is that the cover of your photo, the first thing the person sees, is almost as important as, well, it can be even more important as the video itself. It generally takes people less than a second to decide if they want to actually watch your video. So having a good thumbnail, again, this kind of depends on the platform, because some just autoplay, you don't really see the thumbnail, but make sure you have a good thumbnail or a good initial frame, let's say the initial start sequence of your video. That's very simple and effective. That's very important. These two people, Jazz and Vonnie, I really wanted to specifically highlight because more than anyone, they understand the importance of my next tip. Tip number 5, become a persona. Basically means that you want to become a minor internet celebrity. Some people might call it an influencer. I don't know. I guess influencer is probably a major internet celebrity. Minor internet celebrity is probably a good place to start. So this should be like your main goal as a real estate agent using social media. Yeah, of course, you sell houses, but social media is about selling yourself and your personality. Your goal should be to become a minor internet celebrity, right? Turn up the charm, get that charisma going. Let people have that glimpse inside of your interesting personality, your interesting life. It's almost like you want to create a mini reality TV show, and people gobble that kind of stuff up, right? Reality TV is great. One of the biggest advantages to this too, of becoming a minor internet celebrity, and I've talked to Jazz on this specific topic too, is that if people have watched your videos, if they followed you on social media, they've gotten to know you, even though you've actually never met them in real life. Maybe you haven't even interacted with them online, right? You're building rapport with someone you've never actually met. You're developing mind share in the back of their mind when they think about real estate. So they think about real estate, they're like, oh yeah, there's that real estate agent that I follow online. It's a pretty interesting guy, right? Mind share is very important, very big marketing tactic. So not only is this a very viable way to turn people into tangible leads because they're starting to trust you, right? But when they get in touch with you, when you meet them in real life for the first time, maybe it's like a listing presentation they've invited you to, you have this like insanely huge advantage. They've heard your stories. They know what coffee shops you like in town. They've seen videos about, like your dog or the places you like to go hiking, whatever. They already have a sense of familiarity about you. You've never even met them before. You haven't even shaken their hand yet. And I can't stress this advantage enough. You instantly have a distinct advantage over any other agent because they already feel like they know you. You don't need to make a first impression because you've already done that a dozen times over. There's no barrier or wall to break down because it doesn't exist. The listing is yours before you've even shaken the person's hand. It's actually very powerful stuff. Getting closer to the end here. Tip number 6, 7, and 8. And they're probably a little lesser. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Tip number 6, choose your platform. This is a simple one. Won't spend too much time on it. Don't overextend. Simple as that. Don't spread yourself too thin. If you're planning on getting serious social media, start with 1, maybe 2 platforms. Honestly, it doesn't matter which. Choose whichever one you're the most familiar with, whatever you're the most comfortable using. Maybe the one you want to try out, or maybe even just like the ones with the demographic you want to target, right? Because the demographic can matter quite a bit actually with social media platform choice. But in general, anything I've been talking to today, it applies to any platform, right? The worst thing you can do, though, is spreading yourself too thin. There are many services that you can use to post to multiple social media platforms really easily. They're really good at managing multiple social media platforms, but it is very difficult to engage with the community of followers that you have on many platforms effectively. When I say choose your platform, you can still post them all. That's fine, right? But you should really focus your core effort, focus on expanding your audience and engagement on just maybe 1 or 2 platforms. That's a piece of advice that I think is a pretty important one to consider when you're developing a social media strategy. Tip number 7, ads. This is a good shortcut. Social media ads are surprisingly good value. If you need to kickstart this like social media adventure you're going on, you can literally bribe the platform you're using to promote your posts so more people will see them. It sounds like cheating because it is, right? It's hands down the easiest way to expand your reach. And it's surprisingly cost effective. You'd be surprised at like $20 can get you. Like mileage does vary, but in my experience, you can easily get around 200 engagements on about a $20 budget. And again, mileage varies. That's just from my experience over the past year, give or take. Getting off the ground on social media can be a really slow grind. Ad campaigns are a huge way to get this in motion and kind of like skip ahead a little bit. Little tip though, when you spend money on ads, spend money promoting your most popular posts, the ones that have a lot of good engagement. Those are the ones people like. They're the ones that are going to draw people into you and become part of your sphere. Remember, that's what you're here to do, right? You're here to expand your sphere of influence. Don't advertise like homes for sale or the fact that you're a real estate agent, right? Just advertise in a way that makes people want to follow you because they find you interesting. It's a really important point. This is definitely the best long-term strategy. People generally aren't on social media to buy a house. They're on social media to look at interesting stuff. So if you're spending money advertising your posts properly, people won't even realize they're ads. That's when you know you've done it properly. Make your posts interesting, spend money promoting the most interesting of the bunch, and that's how you see your followers grow. Tip number 8, social media manager. This is a bit of a misleading headline because I actually think that you shouldn't have a social media manager. Honestly, 99% of people don't need a social media manager. And the 1% that do probably aren't doing it right or don't have any plans to do it properly. A solid focus of 30 minutes a day, that's all you need to make social media be successful and work for you. For most platforms, a post or 2 a day, maybe even just like a few a week, some comment follow-up and commenting on other people's posts. That's all you need to do. You really need to get in the mindset that you need to do this yourself. Okay. If you look at some famous people in social media, Elon Musk, right? He's looking to buy Twitter right now, right? He posts himself. He's a busy guy. I'm pretty sure he's a busy guy. Donald Trump, you may not like him, but he posts his own tweets. Could probably use some English lessons, but that's besides the point. The point is that he's a busy guy. He still finds time to tweet. Mark Hamill, also known as Luke Skywalker from Star Wars, right? That famous actor, he does it himself too. They're all very successful with social media. They know that it's important to have it come from yourself, your own voice. A lot of people out there will hire a social media manager, they'll post for them, and it just comes off as fake. And it's really hard to get that genuine feeling. And you're here to sell your brand, right? You're here to sell yourself. If you're here to sell yourself, it should be you doing the selling. Also, there's a lot of third-party social media management companies out there. Stay away from them, generally speaking. I'm sure there's some good ones out there, but they generally aren't equipped for your target demographic. And what they do is they tend to do a lot of automated posting for you. It's usually very generic and not very personal. The posts they come up with generally have very poor engagement, and honestly, your money's better spent elsewhere, specifically even just promoting ads promoting posts that you like, right? Your own posts. Third-party social media companies feel like filler content in a lot of ways, and they're not equipped, again, like for this personalization that you really want that gets people to engage with you on social media. That being said, getting a few filler posts here and there isn't too bad. Just be careful and think about what you're doing and why you're doing it. All this being said, I have seen social media managers work really well. The best setup is if the manager's main focus is to make the agent's time more efficiently used. Not like posting on behalf of the agent. It's more like a personal assistant with like a special skill set, I think. More so than like a social media manager. Maybe that's a bad term for them. What they do is they typically work with the agent, helping them with the more mundane tasks like video editing, filming, or maybe even helping with like the brainstorming process of like ideas of things to talk about, right? Strategizing ideas, that kind of thing. You don't want them taking your place. You want them getting in front of the camera, right? That's your job. They're just assisting you with the busy work or maybe some of the technical aspects that you're not as comfortable with. A lot of good real estate assistants, some of you may already have, can perform this role very effectively, especially if they have the proper skill set to do it. Okay? So you don't necessarily need a dedicated social media manager. I just wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit because I think it's something you need to think about before deciding to hire on someone for that role. And that pretty much wraps up the list. Also pretty much wraps up what I want to talk about today. I really hope this has made everybody rethink their perspective on social media. Because like really at its core, it's not all that complicated. Use your common sense and the skills you've honed over the years. I'm sure you can find great success on social media. I'll make sure I know that this is getting put up in your Facebook group and everything, but I'll make sure to provide a copy of this presentation for everyone so they have a chance to go over it again if they need to. And if anyone needs to get a hold of me, I'm always available for a chat. My email's on the screen. Again, my name's Linas Kilius. I'm always happy to chat over email, or we can arrange for a phone call too. Don't hesitate to reach out. So at this point, I guess we can open the floor to questions. I haven't seen if there are any there in the chat or on Facebook, but I'm happy to go over them. Just as a reminder too, if there's any specific questions too that are like really hyper specific to your certain situation, you can just email me. We can chat about them later. Like any questions here should probably be ones that benefit the group in general. Right.
Thanks so much, Linus. That was really good. Does anybody have questions for us?
Oh, Vani's presenting to you guys soon. She's great.
Yeah, she's going to be presenting. I think it's not until October, but yeah, she's been sending me bombs for a while. So I was like, okay, fine, you can present.
Yeah, I chatted with her. And one of the things we chatted about too is that I was talking about one of her social media videos, and she like showed off this coffee shop that she really liked. And there's this cookie that she says like the best cookie ever. And she actually ended up sending me one after we chatted about it too. Bonnie's like that kind of person. She like thinks about these things and goes like extra mile that you wouldn't really expect. Like she sent, I think she lives in Calgary. She sent it to me from Calgary. FedEx me a cookie it was an amazing cookie. I don't want to demean that point, but still, anyways, I kind of getting lost in conversation here.
Sent me a knife with my name on it. So I get where you're coming from. Okay. So Lucy is saying, sorry guys. Lucy is saying, when you say take a popular post, do you mean boost it or ads?
Yeah, generally, and again, it kind of depends on the platform you're talking about, but the best way to promote yourself and to increase your following is to find a post, maybe at a post about that cookie at that coffee shop or whatever it was that had a lot of engagement, right? And you're like, oh, this is a good post. People like this stuff. And maybe after like a few days, you just go and you spend a little money promoting the post, right? What promoting a post does is it just puts it up in people's feeds that typically wouldn't get it, right? You're like paying to get your post promoted. And in a lot of cases too, most social media networks are really good at putting these ads there with like a very subtle, like says like ad in the corner, promoted post in the corner. And you don't even notice that it is one. So it's almost like people will see it and be like, oh, cool. Like they just think it's like another interesting thing that Facebook or Instagram's told them that they should look at. And then I'm going to say they get tricked, but they don't get tricked because what you're doing is valid, right? Like you're showing them something they want to see. They go and they interact, maybe get a follow out of it. Maybe they comment, you comment back, and you cultivate that relationship. That's the best way to do it. Like the banner ads, like you can see on some of these platforms on the sides and stuff, like I guess they have their place, but that's not the most effective use of your ad spend in my perspective.
The other thing I've noticed, what we were doing, we'll post a lot of stories on Instagram that maybe a lot of you guys will see, but if we find that one gets a lot of engagement in the DMs, then we know that that's a good, either a TikTok video or even a reel on Instagram. So yeah, same thing. Like if you notice that one of your posts is popping off like in the stories or it's hiding a little bit, paying extra for it to get out there, or even just putting it on a different platform, like those are really good tips.
And that's a great way to do it too, is to make sure that you know it's popular before boosting it. It's kind of like you're testing your potential ad with your existing base. And if it does well, then that's where you spend money to show it to the world at large.
Yeah, and I liked what you said, Linas, about not paying for someone to do it for you. I get that a lot from the agents when I meet with them. They'll show me someone that is offering their services. And there's definitely lots of people out there, guys, that can do this. It's very simple, but I remember someone reached out to us a week ago and I just asked them, and it was like $1,500 a month to just do some posts and stuff. And to me, you can do this all for free. And like Linas said, you only need like 30 minutes a day. This is not something you have to sit on all day, every day. But I personally don't think it's worth spending that extra money to have someone post something. Maybe having someone to talk to give you a strategy behind it all, or maybe someone to help you with just getting your branded stuff going or just some ideas. But someone that's just going to pick a generic post and post it is really it's not going to make you any business. People want to see you and all that as well.
You have to be very careful. There's a lot of snake oil salesmen out there, especially when you get into a demographic where there might be a whole bunch of people that don't really understand how to do well at social media. They just look for that kind of shortcut solution. So there's always a lot of people that are willing to offer that, right? And by the time you realize that whatever solution they're providing doesn't work, you've already spent a ton of money, right? So you just got to be really careful. There's a lot of great people and services out there, but just make sure that you've vetted it before deciding to use it.
Yeah, and real estate agents are very easy to sell to, especially when they're selling us leads or clients. A lot of agents will spend that money to do it. So I can see the hype behind it, and I can see the fear that a lot of you guys have out there for just posting. It just starts slow, like start with your listings, put yourself out there. Up to you if you want to throw your kids and all that. I don't think you need to go that far to really be personal, to be honest. But showing some sort of personality is good. Perfect. I don't have any questions on Facebook. Does anybody have any last minute questions? If not, Linas is available. I don't know if you guys noticed Homania. I'll mention it a little bit. I know Linas wasn't going to sell it at all, but he is kind of the founder of Homania, which is the marketing system for the program Spotlight that we promote to you guys to use. It's basically a team of photographers, videographers. They also have websites that are directly for your listing, almost like a landing page for your listing. But the Homania package I personally really, really love it because they do a lot of the marketing for you. So they will post it up on Facebook. They'll put it on Kijiji, YouTube. There's a whole bunch of different social media platforms that they will post for you for your listings. So if you haven't checked out Homania/Spotlight, either message me, you can email Linas, talk to any of the management team. We'll tell you guys a little bit more about it, but It is a service that we offer you guys when you have listings. We even pay for that service up front for you guys. And then we put on your expenses. So if you have a listing coming up and you're looking for that extra marketing platform, then definitely check it out.
Thanks for the plug. Spotlight.century21.ca is the best place to look for information there, or you can just, like Caitlin said, just give me a call or send me an email. Happy to talk about it.
Perfect. Awesome. I think that's it. So if anyone does have questions, I'll reach out to you, Linus. But thank you so much for doing that presentation. It's nice to have someone else talk every Wednesday, so they don't have to keep listening to me. Nice to get that.
No
really
problem, anytime.
Simple stuff for you guys. It's not too complicated, but if you do need some one-on-one, you need some help, just feel free to reach out to me, and I can walk you guys through a bunch too. Perfect. That's all.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, thanks guys. We'll chat soon.